Hello Mouses! We finally get to the question that I mentioned last week about what we were going to talk about on the Saturday show, which didn't happen due to the fact that, unfortunately, BT decided to dig up the road near the house, and all we heard for the entire weekend was roadworks. But since it's the Strange Laws Day, I thought it was very appropriate that we answer a question from viewer Stacey Smith, who is an amateur magician. She asks about the legality of altering coins for magic tricks, specifically the construction of two-headed coins and coins of that like. She said, because there's a lot of discussion on the internet and in magic circles, of course, about the legality of altering coins or creating false coins for this purpose. So I thought I'd have a look into it myself, because it's quite an interesting topic. And what I've come up with is this. Section 4 of the Coinage Offences Act 1980 specifically states, and I quote, "Every person who defaces any current coin by stamping thereon any names or words, whether the coin is or is not thereby diminished or lightened, shall be guilty of an offence, and shall be liable on conviction or on information to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year, or in summary conviction to imprisonment of a term not exceeding 3 months, or a fine not exceeding £1,000. However, it also states something very interesting, which I think will be very appropriate to what we're talking about here. Paragraph 3. Every person who tenders, utters, or puts off any coin which has been defaced as aforesaid shall be guilty of an offence, and shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding £200, but no proceedings shall be instituted under this subsection except by or with the consent of the Attorney General." In other words, it might be an offence for you to try and use currency that's been altered or damaged in some way, but unless the Attorney General wants to take a conviction, you won't actually get in trouble. Now that's important, because what it means is, yes, some coins will get damaged during the course of its use. So it's not specifically going to be an offence that you're going to get prosecuted for if you happen to have in your possession and try and pay for your groceries with a coin that someone else has damaged and it's been handed off to you through another shop, and then you pass it on. So that's very nice of them, I suppose. But this is the most interesting thing. This legislation comes out after a 1972 case which clarifies what the law is a little bit. And I think it's most important that, because we've had a look at this on about defacing by marks, we've got to look at the more general term, which is where this other case comes in. Now this did come before the legislation, so legislation technically comes and is superior to it, but it covers a slightly different area. So here we go. Selby, appellant, and Director of Public Prosecutions, respondent, on appeal from the Crown against Selby, 1972, AC 515. It's a long name, but we'll get there. Every person who tenders, utters, or puts off any false or counterfeit coin resembling any current coin, knowing it to be false or counterfeit, shall be guilty of a misdemeanour, and on conviction thereof, liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year, which is very similar to what we have in the original case. Now, this is interesting because it's specifically aiming at people who tender, utter, or put off, which is basically an attempt to use. You've got a counterfeit coin, you attempt to use it. We're going further with this case, which states later on, every person who, with intent to defraud, tenders, utters, or puts off. And that's where we need to come in here. It's the intent to defraud. There are two specifics to any crime. There's mens rea and actus reus. Actus reus is where the act involved is criminal. So, for example, in murder, the act of killing someone is required. So, if instead I was dusting and someone nearby me dropped dead, I can't be guilty of murder, even though I may have killed them, because I haven't committed an act that causes killing. They've died for some other purpose. And there's also mens rea, which is guilty mind in Latin, and it means what you were thinking, what you were intending at the time. So for murder, it's got to be with malice aforethought, which means you have to have actually meant to do it and planned it. So I can't just, if I walk past someone and they knock into me and then they fall down dead, I don't have the mens rea to have killed them, even though the act of knocking into them has caused them to die, because I didn't intend that to happen. I could be guilty of manslaughter, which doesn't have the same actus reus, but I can't be guilty of murder. And this here has intent, specifically intent to defraud. If you're using a magic coin and you hold onto it because you're carrying it to your magic show, then you haven't got intent to defraud. You're not using the coin to commit fraud. You're not using the coin to try and pass it off as a real coin in order to purchase goods and services. You're using it in the purpose of a trick. It's the same as, oh, I have here some flowers. That's not intent to defraud or attempt to pass off. That's a magic trick. So intent is a massive requirement for this. So yes, okay, you have people who get raided every now and again because they're a factory creating false coins. That's going to happen because the police have to make sure that the false coins you're making aren't fraud. They're not counterfeit goods. They're not attempting to create new currency in order to pass them off. So there you are. Hope that's answered your question, Stacey. Yes, coins shouldn't be defaced. And yes, that is technically illegal to possess a coin that has been stamped or cut in some way in order to deface it. But if you're not using a magic trick coin with the intent of defrauding someone, you're probably alright, and as we say, the Attorney General would need to get involved. So that's all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, remember to click the like button, share it with your friends so that they get the idea of what magic tricks and law are all about, and subscribe so you get more videos in the future. Until next time, I've been Kirk-Robinson, you've been watching the video, and I'll see you tomorrow.